How many of you can spot someone who's leading themselves? Show of hands. You can tell, right? And the way they seem to be one step ahead, prepared, confident. There's a myth that leadership starts when someone gives us authority. But I've come to believe that leadership begins the moment we decide to lead ourselves. A few years ago, I was standing on a treadmill, and honestly, I didn't think I was having a grand leadership moment. I had been out late the night before, and I was stressed, overworked, and disappointed in how I'd been taking care of myself. As I stared at that treadmill display, I asked myself a question. Could I run for just 30 seconds? That seemingly small, inconsequential decision led to running 7 marathons, 6 of the world marathon majors, earning the 6-star medal, writing a book, and eventually standing on a TEDx stage. But none of that was visible that morning when I started to run for just 30 seconds. And looking back now, I realize it didn't have anything to do with running. It had everything to do with leading myself. Those 30 seconds taught me 3 lessons. How to trust myself, how to choose courage to move to the next step even before I was ready, and how to learn to let go. And it all started with just 30 seconds. Long before anyone follows us, we need to become someone that we're willing to follow ourselves. And that starts with keeping the promises you make to yourself when no one is watching. We think that leadership begins with having authority, but it actually starts with all of us. I have a feeling I'm standing in a room full of women who are very good at keeping promises to everyone else. Your client, your team, your family. But what about the promises you make to yourself? Those are often the first ones we break. And eventually something dangerous happens. We stop trusting ourselves. Have you caught yourself saying, I'll start that next Monday, or I will be less busy next month? How many of you have broken a promise to yourself? Me too. Every promise we break chips away at our trust. But every promise we keep builds evidence that we can trust ourselves. That morning on the treadmill, I wasn't trying to become a marathoner. In fact, if you would have told me that I was going to run 26.2 miles for fun, I would have thought you were crazy. I was just trying to keep one promise to myself. And what was interesting is the next day, I ran a little again, and I trusted myself some more. And again the next day, a little more. And soon that trust started to build and grow and enter into other parts of my life. Isn't it funny? I thought I was learning to run. I was actually learning to trust myself. Trusting yourself is about keeping the promises you make to yourself. when no one is watching. Trusting yourself requires something extra. Choosing to move forward before you're ready. I think we spend too much of our lives waiting. And I don't mean waiting in line at Ritz Donuts or waiting for the next season of Bridgerton to come out. I'm talking about waiting until we feel confident, until the timing is perfect. Leadership asks us to choose to move forward before we're ready, before we feel qualified, before someone gives us permission. A few years ago, I was working at SAS mid-career. And if you're familiar with the triangle, you know that SAS is an incredible employer. And for nearly 6 years, everything looked the way success was supposed to look. I had a cohesive team. I had a boss who supported me. I was making money. Everything was safe and secure. But there was one problem. I couldn't shake this voice in my head that kept saying, "You're capable of more." And that realization is terrifying because now you have a choice. You can either stay where you are or you become someone new. So I chose to leave SAS, and I dove in to the deep end of the uncertainty pool. You guessed it, I joined a startup. And I know what you're thinking, but we were going to change the world. We really were. And mainly, it just changed my resume. The startup went belly up. But setbacks are part of the process. And it led me to make other bold choices, like writing a book. I didn't know how to go about writing a book. But I remembered something a manager told me way back in my first big girl job. He said, use the resources around you to bolster your weaknesses. I found a writing club, and I showed them my book. And they told me to delete chapter 7. I love chapter 7. Readiness doesn't come before action. Readiness grows because of action. Choosing to move forward before you're ready is a superpower. What would it look like for you to tap into that superpower? Something I tell the runners I coach is this: forward is a pace. Running for 30 seconds is forward. Writing a single sentence, taking the next tiny step is forward. It doesn't have to be a giant leap or a big risk to move you toward the person that you are becoming. All you need is the courage to choose to take that next tiny step. The third lesson that leading myself taught me was how to learn to let go. A few years ago, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. Suddenly, the lives we had been living looked completely different. There were surgeries, radiation, chemo, and as a result of radiation damage, his entire jaw had to be reconstructed. Today, he lives with chronic pain. He has trouble swallowing, eating, and speaking. Going out to dinner with friends, disappeared. Meeting folks for drinks after work, gone. And if you've ever loved someone through something like this, you know it's not just their journey. I lost pieces of myself too. I was consumed with guilt. Guilt that I wasn't the one who was sick. Guilt that I still wanted that big life we had, and I was angry that I wasn't getting the life that I had envisioned for us. These are hard things to say out loud, but I know I'm probably not the only one who's felt them. After a lot of therapy, I started to accept our new life and begin to let go of the anger and the guilt. But believe me, I am still a work in progress, in case you see me out in the wild. When I was in the thick of it, I came across a quote from Amy Purdy that has stayed with me. Life doesn't need to go back to what it once was in order to be good. Letting go of those expectations of what I thought life was supposed to be and embracing the life that was unfolding in front of me became the catalyst that set me free. Maybe for you, it's about letting go of perfection or letting go of a relationship, letting go of anger. I will tell you to be brave and let go. Sooner the better. Leadership doesn't come with a roadmap. You may go down a path and look back and wonder, what if? You may take a big risk and it blow up. It's not about making perfect decisions. It's about making courageous ones. Because as long as you're moving forward, you are growing. And forward is a pace. Leadership happens long before anyone follows you. It starts with the hardest person you'll ever lead, yourself. I will leave you with this. Find your 30 seconds. Have that courage to take that tiny next step. Because like me, you may one day look back and realize that that small, seemingly inconsequential decision was what changed the course of your entire life.